Take it to the streets. How to distribute literature door to door. One method of witnessing is to distribute literature. Like the Leaves of Autumn, it has been said, this can be done by knocking on doors and engage the residents in some way, often via survey, an offer to pray, or script of some sort. The literature is offered. You may not prefer this method for several reasons. Those who do come to the door may ask questions that you are not prepared to answer. It takes a lot of manpower. Going 2 by 2 is advised. Simply door stuffing avoids that requirement. Each person can work opposite sides of the street and move as fast as they can walk. The purpose of this presentation is to show you how to distribute literature, not how to go to door knocking and waiting for responses. You may be concerned about engaging people and having to offer explanations and scriptures. Relax. You probably won't have many conversations unless you look for them. Being able to explain the basis of your faith and offering to pray for someone is all you need to know. Leave your Bible in the car. If the occasion does come up, offer to return with the answer and go to your resource person or pastor as needed. The objective is to get material into the hands of people, preferably directly, but normally on a vehicle premises. Distribute literature in vehicles usually simply means putting it under a windshield wiper on the driver's side. Here our focus is on going door to door, but any place where people are found or go can be used, such as transit stops and block parties. Note, our objective here is focused on religious literature, but the basic principles and practices have some general application. Who can do this? Any reasonably able-bodied person. It is also healthful exercise at a moderate tempo. Smaller children can go along with adults. They're handy to run after opportunities to get away and to reach other children. Remember that you must be their eyes and ears so that they do not get hit crossing a street. They will have to learn to deal with disappointment when literature is refused. Prepare them so they understand what they're doing and do not get upset. Eat before you go out. Running up and down steps and walks for an hour or more is exercise. It is good for you, but you don't want to faint. If the weather's warm, bring water too. You want to properly represent the one who sent you, so dress comfortably and look reasonably like someone who may have just come from worship. Jehovah's Witnesses always dress for the office, and you'll be compared to them whether you like it or not. Wear comfortable shoes. Anything else will send you home early. Bring some water. And of course, dress for the weather. Inclement weather does not necessarily mean that you cannot go out. You can hold an umbrella in one hand and literature in the other, or wear a coat if it is cold. You may want to underdress to some extent if you expect to dash up and down a lot of steps or walk briskly, because you will warm up. Dressing in layers with items that can easily be removed, like a scarf, will allow you to minimize sweating as you get into the work. Wearing long sleeves will give sun protection and reduce arm chafing from straps. Remember who you represent. Look like you've joined the Lord, not a prune from a pew. What to carry? This may not be a question if one particular item is to be distributed or an event is being promoted. That will be it. For us, this is an Amazing Facts Bible Study request card. Some type of card is good because they have stiffness, which is often desirable. It should be rectangular, not square. Square shapes are often awkward to get to mail slots or to place somewhere. They may need to be folded in half. For general outreach evangelism type distribution, having more than one item costs more, but may get better responses and works well. Overbook finds that a combination of a small tract and a card is good. For us, this is a glow tract, but there are many others. It is best if it is very different in size and composition than the card, so it will get attention and complement it. Saving extra copies of Guide Magazine, Primary Treasure, Our Little Friend, or whatever youth-oriented materials you have access to is recommended. Stop smoking tracts is a good idea, but probably only a few will be used in the current American climate. Offer one to a smoker, even if they refuse to take anything. Often they will still take it. Depending on your community, there may be Hispanics present. The Great Hope is available in Spanish for 39 cents now. It gets a good response. Of course, there are also small tracts in Spanish. On Saturday afternoons, Hispanics may consistently be found in bodegas or corner stores, which many cities have. Since working 7 days a week is a livelihood, expect little conversion. Learn a few words of Spanish will facilitate delivery. Having a few tracts from Muslims is also good. See resources at the end for more information. Tracts and unpersonalized items are usually stamped to lead recipients back to the source, that is, your church. A rubber stamp is most often used for this purpose. Red ink usually provides the most contrast so the imprinting is noticeable. The ink should be oil-based, not water-based, which is more likely to smear. Get a quality brand-name rubber stamp, not a made-on-the-spot stamp like are made at major chain stationery stores. Those have shallow letters which clog and are hard to re-ink. How to carry it. A canvas bag or similar with a V-bottom is recommended. Supermarket-type reusable bags are not durable or suitable. Avoid flat-bottom bags. A V-bottom will pull the contents together and keep them upright. Having shoulder straps will reduce arm fatigue. Keep the front or most attractive size of material up. How to hold it. We have 5 fingers on each hand, which leaves 4 possible holding slots. Between the thumb and forefinger is the largest, strongest, and most convenient place for most people. So that is where to place the prominent pieces of literature, unless the second one is much smaller, like a glow tract. Hint, hide a couple stop smoking tracts at the bottom of the stack of tracts. The second slot between the forefinger and middle finger is where to hold the secondary pieces of literature, unless the primary one is bigger, like the Amazing Effects Bible Study card. Additional materials can be held in the other finger slots if needed. Using all 4 finger slots can get awkward and is not recommended. Hold no more than 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch of materials in each slot. If you try to hold too many, you will end up picking them off the ground when they slip out. If only one type of literature is being held, then the hand and thumb function as the sole slot and larger quantities of literature can be held. When to distribute. This may not be questioned at all for many people. Most will find that whatever time is available is what gets used. For churchgoers, this often will be in the afternoon after services. Most people will not stay out much after dark, both for comfort and safety reasons. Concentrated effort often precedes an upcoming event. How much time is needed? In dense urban areas, 100 to 200 tracts may be distributed door to door in an hour. Less dense areas will take multiples of these times. At times, you will have unplanned interaction with people. Some useful phrases are, if you're asked, are you Jehovah's Witness? Respond, no, I believe in Jesus Christ as Lord, Savior, and God. Some may say, you already gave him one, so compliment yourself. Say, great, I'm doing a good job. You'll be asked, what church is this from? Respond, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. We believe in the Bible, all 10 commandments, and want to be ready for the return of our Savior, Jesus Christ. This could lead into a conversation. One of our favorite tracks is called Addictions. People may ask, what's this for? Respond to help you overcome whatever the devil is holding you back with, which often leads to denial response. I'm not addicted, or similar statement. So then you explain to them. Addictions come in many forms. The most common one is caffeine. People can't get going in the morning without the coffee or keep going all day without a Coke. And there's lots of others. Another favorite tract of ours is living waters, and people may ask, what's this for? It's an invitation to drink of the living water that Christ offers for salvation. People may respond, I already go to church. So you tell them, great, this will help you understand the Bible better. Or they may ask what this is about, for example, in regards to children's literature like Primary Treasure. This is to help them learn to read and behave better. Note that religion is not mentioned. Departing, even without any prior conversation, you can say blessings or be ready when he comes. To someone who is obviously Islamic, beat him to the punch with a greeting. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. This means peace be upon you. Get comfortable with it. There's nothing wrong with Christians saying this. Say, here's a word from Allah, and hand a Muslim tract. Many will refuse, but some will not. There's nothing wrong with saying Allah. It simply means God in Arabic. Yes, the Creator God, but poorly understood. To obviously obese individuals, you can ask, do you have a problem with overweight or diabetes? Most will not admit it. If they do, you can give them a copy of U-Turn, saying this is recommended by the Health Star of the City of Philadelphia. Keep a couple of copies in your bag. If they won't admit their need, don't waste expensive literature. There are some common reaction patterns you may see. Children up to middle school age often are surprised an adult wants to give them something will find our youth-oriented literature attractive. Teenagers tend to be very group-oriented. When the first one refuses sect literature, the rest often will do the same. Some principles for literature distribution. Don't ask if someone wants literature. That only invites refusal. Hand it to them with a polite word. Make it easy to accept. Make it sound like they're missing out if they do not receive literature. Example, here's one for you, or did you get one? And hand it to them. Don't be churchy unless it seems appropriate with an individual. Many people are distrustful of religion, so use a more secular slant. Be honest. Don't wipe religion on someone else, but don't deny it either. Be aware of activity around you for opportunities to reach out to passers-by and stop vehicles at curbs or traffic lights. These could be alternative types of outreach in themselves. Look up towards the house or building as you approach. Plan where you will be able to leave the literature. If it is business, you may be enter and directly give it to customers and employees. Start with the customers towards the back and side to minimize the possibility that you may be asked to leave. If there's an open interior door, like you see depicted here, do not open the exterior door as you may be perceived as trespassing into someone's home. If you hear sounds of a dog or hints of one inside the home, avoid pushing material all the way through mail slots and interior doors. Small dogs can get their teeth very close to the slot. Don't overlook side entrances and habitable basements. Be alert to whom you may be visiting. Toys and playthings suggest that children live there. Estimate their age and gender, then leave appropriate literature if you have any. In this case, it would appear that there's a teenage boy that resides here. Ashtrays or detritus on the outside suggest smokers. Leave a slot smoking tract at active ashtrays. Some things may suggest that Muslims live there, such as an assortment of shoes left right outside the door. Leave appropriate literature. Don't wave Jesus in the face. That is offensive to them. You would just be feeding their trash can. Some said there will be a bumper sticker-like sign at the entrance saying, "This is a Muslim home. Respect it." Where do you put literature? Mail slots are commonplaces. Can they use them? Yes, but not mailboxes. This is prohibited by postal regulation. Somewhere on the side of the door is not in them. Note that this mail slot is no place near the door. Sometimes there are problems with mail slots such as this one, which has raw, sharp metal edges. Ones that have pivot rods in the middle. If there is a second flap on the inside, we'll usually have to use your hand to help slide the material through. Sometimes slots are upside down, so you have to slide the material in from the top. Some are very small. They're tight, so you have to partially compress the material in order to get it to slide through. Some mail slots are simply not usable, such as this one, which if you look closely, you'll see has been screwed shut. How do you place literature through a mail slot? There's two basic techniques. One is to use your forefinger to lift the slot while the rest of your hand pivots to slide it through. And the other one is to use your thumb to lift the slot while the rest hand slides the material through. A challenge question: do you put the material in the mail slot or drop it through? There is no hard and fast rule, but obviously a tight slot is a prerequisite if you're going to leave it in the slot. So do you drop it through or not? There's no hard and fast rule, but here are some guidelines. If the outer door is exposed to weather, you may want to drop the literature through to keep it from getting wet. There are some doors with looser angled flaps which will not hold literature, so you don't have a choice. Drop it through. This is commonly true with thin aluminum doors. Or there may be flowers, other literature already in the door, and you wish to keep your literature separate, so you drop it through. However, there may be indications of elderly or handicapped residents who appreciate not having to stoop to pick up literature, so you leave the literature in the mail slot. That could also be true if the inner door is open or there are people home. If there are dogs inside, you want to minimize the reach of your hand in the mail slot. You may also note that leaving literature in a mail slot or in a visible area is a way of communicating with coworkers. You may find that after having dropped your literature through the slot, it falls out, which means you'll have to retrieve it and then put it in the mail slot, as you see illustrated here. Here there's clear evidence that a handicapped person resides in this house. One could assume that they'd appreciate not having to stoop down to pick up literature if you can possibly leave it that way. Should you leave literature at all? Perhaps not. A big bill of junk mail, for example, suggests that a home is being occupied, so don't be an neighborhood nuisance by adding to a pile. But just because a building is vacant or under construction does not mean that you should ignore it. Contractors, owners, a real estate personnel visit. Get the literature inside the door. These are good opportunities to use up damaged literature that otherwise might be discarded. Standard practice at Overbrook is to slide a card into the side of a tract. Often this will be simply placed as it is. You'll find that the stiffness of the card is very helpful many times for holding the tract in place. So how do you place the card tract pair? Oftentimes you'll find that the door is a knob which is adjacent to a door jamb, so you simply bend the pair in between. The best way to place literature behind your doorknob is pressing it in place with a couple of fingers, one above and one below the doorknob. This creates a good bend. Here there is no knob, so the best place to put the literature is inside the handle, dropping down into the wedge at the bottom. Here you can see the door jamb is very shallow. It's not possible to crease the card tract pair in the normal manner, so it's been reversed. You can see plainly that the stiffness of the card is essential for holding the tract in position. For a pull handle, slide the literature in from the jamb side toward the door. For a pull handle of this type, the literature is placed with the crease toward the pivot of the door handle. Here we see a commercial door handle. As you can see, the literature is bent to fit behind the handle, and again the stiffness of the card is what holds it. Some security doors have a face of small bars, as you see here, in front of a screen. It's convenient to drop your literature right behind the bars. You'll find storm doors oftentimes have scalped edges. and normally there's a gap between these, which is a very convenient place to drop literature. Some security doors have a little horizontal bar running across the middle like this. As you can see, it's a very convenient place to drop literature, and the stiffness of the card is what holds it in place. This type of commercial security gate has numerous open slots at the top, which you obviously can use to drop literature through. This gate has a plain obvious mail slot, so use it. Sometimes simply sliding literature underneath the door is the best way to leave it. Some properties are challenges because there's no obvious safe or appropriate place to leave literature, and the best you can do is to try to toss it through inside as far as you can away from the elements. It's now time to try to save some steps, because after a while your feet are going to get tired, but you want to be respectful of people's property and try to walk on solid surfaces such as this, not on lawns. You also will notice in some types of neighborhoods that there are steps that are side by side, and you may be able to climb one side and avoid climbing up the other. But that requires that you be able to reach over from one side to the other. Here you can see you can easily access one side, so the question becomes, can you reach over to the other side without having to climb up again? If not, you'll have to do so. Here both doors have mail slots in the middle of them. You can reach them from either side, so you want to climb the right side and reach over to the left. Using interior mail slots is a great idea when they're available, but you will not be able to reach both of them from one side. You want to watch out for safety hazards, such as this obviously rotten porch here. Awnings can also pose a safety hazard. If you walk straight down the steps toward the street, there will almost always be adequate head clearance, but you want to go sideways to the adjacent house, and many times there will not. Newel posts such as this can also be another problem. When you transition from one porch to the other, most of the time you will hold on to it and swing around. However, it may be loose and not provide good support. Always use handrails when coming down steps, especially wet or painted ones. They can be very slippery. You may run across literature which has been discarded, oftentimes by use. If it's suitable, reuse it. If not, recycle. If it's very windy, literature may blow away. It may be not possible to put literature in a place where it won't blow away. In such a case, it will be better not to leave it. Some doors will have an accumulation of literature, oftentimes advertisements. You want to distinguish your literature from that. If you must associate with something, put it with the U.S. mail, which is more likely to be valued. Some properties have gates on their fences or porches. If you open it, close it. And if you found it open, it's courteous to leave it in a better way than you found it, so close it. Treat others' house of worship like you'd want your own to be treated. Just keep going without leaving anything. When distributing literature door to door, there are some preferences. First of all, you want to get into the hands of someone who's on the outside if you have the opportunity. Next, into the building via mail slot or under the door, then on the interior door, the exterior door, and finally, if none of those options are available, at some other place, such as on the mailbox, remember, not in it, on the outside gate, on the stoop, or on the closest flat spot you can reach from outside the premises. Make the extra effort to get the literature as close as you can to the recipient. At times, you may have to make choices because there are multiple opportunities to witness. The highest priority are people that are in motion, for example, on the sidewalk, a playground, or a store. If you don't reach them first, they'll move away and you will lose the opportunity to witness. Next are people on the outside that are not in motion, such as in porches, yards, cars. Next, people inside their homes or working in a place of business. Lastly are physical places like homes and apartments, which you're not going to move and will still be there after you've given priority to the other witnessing opportunities. Thank you for watching this instructional video. Our prayer is that it helps you help someone get ready for heaven. This presentation is brought to you by the Overbrook Worship Center. Visit us at overbrookworshipcenter.org.